Drinks, food, art, fun. This is Hops and Spirits Kentucky.
Welcome into another edition of the Hops and Spirits Kentucky podcast. We got a fun interview for you today as we kind of go in the world of art and booze with Bourbon with Heart and Morgan Hancock. But before we get into that, let's see what's pouring here in Kentucky. And we kick it off with some congratulations. First is Chef Ouita Michel for being named a Global Culinary Ambassador for the Diplomatic Culinary Partnership. Created by the U.S. Department of State and the Beard Foundation, the partnership brings together culinary professionals to use food and hospitality to strengthen relationships and bridge cultures. Chef Ouita will be joining several others, including fellow Kentuckian Edward Lee. Also, congrats to Elizabeth McCall, as she was recently named Woodford Reserve's Master Distiller. She's the third Master Distiller in the bourbon brand's 26-year history, succeeding Chris Morris, who will assume the role of Master Distiller Emeritus. McCall, who has been training for the role for over a decade, will oversee quality and innovation efforts and bring new Woodford Reserve products to market. Some sad news around the state. Lady Remoulade announced via its social media that it has officially closed. The chef-owned concept revived the building at 900 North Broadway in Lexington last spring, but closed for what they said was temporarily in November. The owner cited rising costs as a reason for shutting down completely. Over in Louisville, Highlands vegan restaurant V-Grits is moving from its Barrett Avenue brick-and-mortar spot to Logan Street Market sometime this month. Its accompanying brewery, Chimera, though, has closed permanently. There is some good news in openings, though, in Louisville. Pivot Brewing's Highlands location has been in a soft launch phase, but the Lexington-based brewery just announced its grand opening, which will be held on Friday, March 10th. The plan is for live music, Pivot merch, a food vendor, and a surprise cocktail debut as well. And on Bardstown Road, its latest eatery, the Nostalgic Cocktail House and Restaurant, is throwing it back with upscale versions of childhood favorites. The menu features dishes like Hamburger Helper and Hot Pockets, as well as cocktails mimicking sweets like Rice Krispie treats. Nostalgic is the second concept from the owner of Naive and is part of the Bellwether Hotel. But up next is our Q&A with Morgan Hancock, founder of the nonprofit Bourbon with Heart. She talks about all the exciting things coming up with the nonprofit and some events you can check out. Cheers.
Remember to check out Hops and Spirits on social media at Hops Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find Hops and Spirits on YouTube and at hopspirits.com.
Joining us here for our Q&A, she is the founder of the nonprofit Bourbon with Heart. She's also a commercial real estate agent. Welcome in, Morgan Hancock.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining. And, I always like to start this off because you got a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be talking about, a lot of cool events that you're doing with the organization. But the Cliff Notes version of yourself, without going too far into detail, not answering any questions I might have just yet.
Well, as you said, I'm the founder of Bourbon with Heart, nonprofit organization. We'll talk all about that. Commercial real estate agent, U.S. Army veteran. I have 2 kiddos, and I am a passionate advocate of the arts.
So when do you have free time to do all this?
I don't, and I like it that way. This is what I like to do. This is what I would do in my free time.
I got it. I like it. Staying busy. Nothing wrong with that. And like I said, your organization is called Bourbon with Heart. So I got to ask the really hard question: are you a bourbon fan, and how long have you been a bourbon fan?
I am certainly a bourbon fan, and I'll give the legal answer. I've been a bourbon fan since I was legally allowed to consume.
I like it. Now, obviously you work with a lot of brands, so I'm not going to ask you what's your favorite one or anything like that. But did bourbon come easy for you right off the bat? Like, because for me, I've had to work my way into getting it down to just neat. And I still enjoy a good bourbon and Coke. But for you, was it something that you kind of loved right off the bat when you were legally allowed to, or was it something that you've grown to love?
I've always loved it. So I don't know if you just have to have a certain palate or what, but it's even since I can remember being college age and being one of the few girls ordering a bourbon. So I've always loved it.
Well, and now you have a nonprofit that we're talking about, Bourbon with Heart. How did that come about?
Well, so actually, my very first the LLC that I started, the domain that I got, the trademark I was filing for was originally called Bourbon and Beethoven. And actually, one of my friends had came up with that idea, and they had talked about it for years, and they just weren't getting it off the ground. And it was actually going to be at Frazier, and it was a history museum. And so on the first floor, well, you would go in and there'd be bourbon samplings and, classical Beethoven. You go to the second floor, it gets a little more modern. And then the third floor, it's, classical renditions of modern, rock, pop, hip hop songs. And we're still going to do that, by the way. But so that was one of the ideas. And I knew that I wanted to also have it benefit other nonprofits, and it not just be just a for-profit event. And then the juices just started flowing of, no pun intended there, but just of, okay, well, what about bourbon and Broadway? What about bourbon and ballet? And they don't always have to start with a B, but all these other arts. And then what really catapulted things to make me just stop talking and start doing was I was walking down the street one day and I saw a trash can in the city of Louisville, and it was just ugly, gross, like half broken. And I just thought, why can't that trash can be more aesthetically pleasing? And I thought it would be really cool if that's like a bourbon barrel, and then I thought a painted bourbon barrel. And so I Googled and I realized we've never done any painted bourbon barrel anything in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm like, this has to happen. So I had all these arts related bourbon ideas that needed to be put under one umbrella, which became Bourbon with Heart. So that was a long explanation, but that's
Well,
how
I
it came
mean,
about.
it's cool to see how things like that come about, and clearly you're an enjoyer of the arts as well, and which is what this show is all about too, whether it's food, drinks, art, or fun, and I feel like that encompasses all. With you, how are you able to though use bourbon to showcase the art and the artists, and like you mentioned, of all kinds, whether it's the visual or something else.
Honestly, it's a perfect marriage. Our bourbon and distilling is really an art in itself, a kind of an art and a science maybe combined. And distillers will describe their craft as an art often. And also, bourbon in Kentucky is such a huge part of our community, our culture, our economy, and bourbon brings people together in Kentucky already. Just as art has been bringing people together all across the world, for forever, bourbon does that in Kentucky. So, I mean, to me, it's just a perfect combination, and I think this organization has proven that. I mean, people have received it very well, and it just seems to make sense.
And for those artists that may not get a chance otherwise to have their stuff showcased in a way that is, like you said, bourbon brings so many people to the table that might not have otherwise seen it. How important is it for them to be able to showcase that art while you're also helping out organizations as well?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because when I first started this organization, I knew I wanted to provide access and platforms for maybe some lesser known artists and known artists to showcase their work. But when I first started it, I kind of had this idea of, well, we're going to raise funds for other nonprofits, and that's kind of going to be the big give back. But that's sort of transformed and changed since we first started because I have witnessed the impact and the good of just providing these platforms and this access to artists. And so it was it's becoming more important every day, this providing access and awareness and visibility for local artists, because what that's doing for their lives in terms of opportunities, confidence, it's been a game changer in a lot of these people's lives. And so I'm putting, equal focus on that as well as raising the funds for the other nonprofits because I've realized that's incredible work in itself.
Well, it seems like there's multiple parts now that may not have been there, and I'm guessing that's the ultimate goal is to lift as many folks as you can.
Yes, and that's one thing I love about our organization and our board is we're very fluid and we're very open. We we may look totally different 2 years from now, and that's fine because we're learning every day how to bring more people in, how to lift up more people, and how to have a positive impact on more and more people, however that takes shape.
Well, and currently you have Barrels of Heart, which is at the Frazier History Museum, which they're a cool group to talk or to visit, and I got to talk with them on a previous show, and they were excited about this because it is a cool thing to have at their museum as part of the Kentucky exhibition. So, can you talk a little bit about Barrels of Heart?
So Barrels of Heart is a bourbon barrel art exhibit. This consists of 20 bourbon barrels painted by 20 local artists. And as you said, it's on display at Frazier Kentucky History Museum. And when we first approached them, that was the first venue that I approached because it made perfect sense. It's the start of the Bourbon Trail. And they were just immediately on board, which I am so grateful to them because had they not believed in this vision with nothing to show, I think we wouldn't have got off the ground as quickly as we did. So a big thanks to Frazier forever for that. And yes, they're currently on display, and they came out better than I ever envisioned that they would be. I mean, these artists just blow my mind. And we'll get to this later, but yes, we're in the middle of another exhibit right now, preparing for it. And so just right before this call, the artists are sending me sneak peek pictures, and it's just, again, it's like I never would have imagined. I knew it would be so good.
Well, and for those that want to see those that in action, obviously it's at the museum and through the 30th. You can also kind of get a little glimpse on the social media. But how were those 20 artists selected, and what kind of process did they have to go through?
We just put out an open artist call. It was open about 2 weeks, and the only requirements were be from the Kentuckiana area. We're not going to leave our Southern Indiana folks out. So Kentuckiana area. And within that 2 weeks, we had over 150 submissions of insanely talented artists all across Kentuckiana. And, when I went into it, I thought, oh no, I hope I can find 20 artists. And then I had the problem of how do I only pick 20 artists? So I'm continually surprised by just how the community's embraced this. Like that's an example. I thought I'd be struggling to find artists, not to narrow them down. But we picking the artists, so we have a board. So everyone, 5 people. So we reviewed each submission, and it's tempting to just pick your favorite, but we didn't want to just pick our favorites. We wanted to make sure that every artist was very different, so that everyone who comes to see this exhibit feels represented in this exhibit, whether it's in the artist story or in the art. And so I think we did a really, really good job at that. Everybody, we've got people from every different walk of life as an artist in this exhibit.
Well, and seeing the pictures from the kickoff event at the beginning of February and so forth, it seems like a lot of people were excited to see it to begin with. So, because there's also kind of an interactive part for those of us that are going to see it, and can you explain that and how that works?
Yes, so this is another time where we are continually surprised at the positive feedback. We thought 250 tickets on a Wednesday night at 6 was more than enough, but we sold out within hours, and that should be a really great thing. And it was a great thing, except I had so many people so disappointed they couldn't come to the Meet the Artist night. That was so next time we know we need 1,000. We need 1,000 tickets. But yeah, so there is an interactive part. You can vote on your favorite barrel design, and you don't have to even be in Kentucky to do that. That's online. So you just go to bourbonwithheart.org/vote, and you can view all the designs. It tells you how to vote, and the winning artist ends March 23rd. The winning artist will get a cash prize, and then they also get to donate a donation, $1,000 to the nonprofit of their choice.
So you're continuing the pay it forward, give it back, and when it comes to stuff like this, bourbon barrels aren't cheap. Things like that aren't cheap to run all of this. So you're somewhat times as a nonprofit relying on sponsors and partners and things like that. Again, was this another surprise for you? Because you've gotten a lot of folks on board and a lot of really great companies too.
Yeah, so I've worked in advertising and media for over a decade. So I will say that was highly beneficial because I do understand advertising. I do understand uh what you got to do to get a sponsor on board. So I but still these were $3,000 a barrel. It's not a small ask for an organization that's never existed. And also, we told the organizations that these were works of art. They were not billboards. They couldn't have their logo on the design. So not only do you need to pay $3,000, but you're also not getting your logo on here. So that was kind of a risky and bold move for an organization that didn't exist yet. But again, like you said, to my surprise, we had no issue. We had to turn away sponsors, and I'm talking large corporations and that are names that are every advertising person is seeking for sponsorships. We had to turn them away. We ended up raising $63,000 because we even had sponsors who sponsored, paid it, and then donated the barrel back. That's how we got the additional stuff, that other three, for us to sell again. Because I had never seen in any of my time in advertising sponsors who just immediately became so passionately connected to the mission and to the artist and to what they were sponsoring. It was not just about advertising at all. And that really showed the opening night, and just by their donating a barrel back. Why would you do that unless you just, that's how passionate they were about what we were doing.
Well, and now you've got more events coming up. And you were kind of teasing this a little bit earlier about looking through all those artist submissions. You have Bow Tied Together, which is coming in April. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this one's super fun. And so far, my favorite thing about Bow Tied Together is these bow ties weigh a lot less than bourbon barrels. And so the logistics so far have been much easier. Um, but these are 50 bourbon barrel bow ties, and it's exactly what it sounds like. They're bow ties made out of bourbon barrels. They are made by a group of U.S. military veterans, custom crews. You can look them up. They found that woodworking helps their PTSD more than anything. And so they started doing woodworking projects out of bourbon barrels. So we connected through the first exhibit, and I'm like, I've got to work with these guys. I'm a veteran as well. This is a match made in heaven. And I love what they're doing. And their slogan is giving veterans and bourbon barrels a new purpose, which was just beautiful. And that's kind of what we did with our bourbon barrels when we painted them. I mean, these were old, nasty, used bourbon barrels that were given a new life. So I knew I had to work with them, but I'm like, how do we do it? So we played around with some different ideas. Like, do we come up with a custom product for Bourbon with Heart, or and then with Derby around the corner, I'm like, let's make bow ties, So they were like, sure, let's do it. They cranked them out, 50 bow ties. We did another artist call. All the designs are due by March 8th. So here I'm starting to see lots of them coming in. We're doing the photo shoots. That exhibit opens April 1st at the Galt House, which is a perfect place to be for Derby season. It's already booked. And again, you can sponsor a bow tie. And all that information's on our website, bourbonwithheart.org. But it's just a ton of fun.
Well, I mean, how much fun is it to come up, especially some of that if you've been in marketing? That's something I've always enjoyed, is that creative side where you're coming up with ideas or events, or kind of almost that behind the scenes type thing. How much fun is it for you to come up with unique things like this?
Oh, it is my passion. I mean, it is my art. Because advertising is and marketing, I mean, that is art. And art is taking what's in your mind that's invisible, that's just your creativity, and it's bringing it to life. And that's what we're doing on a bigger level with these exhibits, and then within that, what each artist is doing with their individual designs. So it's just like I said, it's people, when you said, how do you have free time. Like this is my fun. Like I'm having too much fun. So, and really the sky's the limit. I mean, we have so many ideas and so many things coming. And this bow tie exhibit, it's been benefiting the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, as well as same with the barrel art exhibit. The artist, there'll be a voting period, and we'll donate to the winning artist and their nonprofit of choice as well.
And you touched on this. Obviously, this is just the next event that you've kind of announced, and I'm sure there's more ideas percolating. What can you tell us? And I'm guessing more events of this kind of nature are in the plans.
So I kind of learned a little lesson on this recently because I get excited and I tell everything. And one of the things I started telling, I just heard someone announce that they were doing. So I'm going to try to have a little more self-control. You guys will just have to stay tuned.
I like it. A good tease, but there are more events that you're hoping to put on and things like that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I did allude to some of them, but some performing arts. So we've been doing the visual arts so far, but we have some performing arts that, ballet, Beethoven, which is, I'm still excited. That's going to be awesome. And, Broadway, and I can't tell you a couple of the other ones. And not until I get all the paperwork done. And
well, and I was gonna say, for those that are maybe interested in getting involved as an artist, or maybe just being part of the Bourbon with Heart organization and giving back their time because it's something that they're passionate about, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just reach out directly. Go to our website, bourbonwithheart.org. On social media, we're Bourbon with Heart, and just contact me and we'll find some way to get you involved, whether that's as a sponsor, an artist, a supporter. We'll need all hands on deck for our event. We've got, if you want to go pick up and deliver some bourbon barrels when it's time to pick them up, that you can do that. So we've definitely, if you reach out, we'll find a way to get you involved.
And I guess my last question is just, just to see the amount of outpouring, whether that's the sponsors or the artists themselves, or just the people showing up in general and voting. How rewarding is that for you to see this actually happening and then being able to turn around and do the mission and give back?
It is an extremely rewarding. It's, people, like some days I'm like, I don't feel worthy of this because people have just been so kind to me through this process. And so I mean, I'm like truly humbled by it because it's just incredible. And but then it kind of raises the bar of I got to keep living up to these expectations, which is a good thing, but now it's great. And so many people every day. I mean, Heather French Henry is one of our artists in this. She just came on board. She's Miss America. She's a huge advocate for veterans. So she came in as an artist, which is super cool. And every day I'm just blown away by the people who are calling and wanting to be a part of this.
Well, it's something really cool. It's something really unique. And it's something truly Kentucky and greater Kentucky, Kentuckiana as well. And Morgan, thanks for sharing the Bourbon with Heart story. And like I said, you can go see the Barrels of Heart at Frazier Museum through March 30th. Then in April over at the Galt House, the bow tied together. So I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.